Hello, everyone, and welcome to another spoiler review episode here from the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey! We're back at it with these what if spoiler reviews. We're jumping into episode 6, and before we move forward, we should say it right off the bat. Yes, one person is missing from our crew. The lovely Emma Fife is off, was held up at work, and also had to head out onto her vacation, so she couldn't join us for this review. Unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out. We wish her the best to enjoy her time. She says she'll be back next week and write us out to the rest, write it out to the rest of the run here. Yeah, what's up?
Everybody wish Emma a happy vacation. She had COVID. She's the busiest woman I know.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone deserves a vacay, it is her.
It is absolutely Emma Fife. You're absolutely right.
Happy vacay in the comments below. Go for it.
Yeah, give her some love. That's for sure. Hardest working woman in show business. Anyway, we're jumping into episode 6 today of What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. This one went in a number of directions that I thought was very exciting and thrilling and fun, and had, again, that darkness that we remember from the Doctor Strange episode. So really excited to see us diving back into that after the zombie episode of last week. You know, I've noticed that they kind of took the first few episodes, gentlemen, and they were like, okay, let me get you to understand, feel the premise, get in touch with these characters again. All right, let's just start getting some darkness rolling through here. So I really liked this episode, enjoyed it, thought Michael B. Jordan did phenomenal work for voiceover wise and what have you. But we'll get into all of it here for sure. This is your first spoiler warning that we are going to spoil the episode. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, and then pick up right here where you left off and join us for the rest of our review. Let's jump. Oh, well, we should introduce ourselves real quick for the people who are new to our show. I am the Outlaw John Roker, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation and the Geek Buddies. Mike?
I am Michael Vogel, a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Jen?
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Nice. That's right. All right. So we're going to break this thing down in just a second. But first, we're going to give our overall opinions about this, a little bit of non-spoiler overall opinions on this. And I'll give you one more spoiler warning before we jump into breaking this thing down section per section throughout the episode. That's how we do it on the Geek Buddies. Michael, overall thoughts. What did you think? So much presented here. Killmonger, Black Panther, Iron Man, Avengers. So much covered here. Obadiah Stane, for God's sakes. What did you think about this episode?
Well, I kind of feel like what it seems like is there's kind of two different versions of What If, depending on where we are. One is like all out crazy. It's like when T'Challa becomes Star-Lord, everything is different.
Yeah.
When the Avengers are all zombies, everything is different. But then you have these episodes kind of like Captain Carter, kind of like the Avengers dying one by one, and kind of like this one where things are drastically different in characters' trajectories, but it's similar enough that we get to really see moments from the movies recreated. And this was definitely that. I mean, we kind of started off very much in Iron Man territory, but with Killmonger coming in earlier, it got us to sort of a little bit of an Age of Ultron moment with Ulysses Klaue, and then we dove right into sort of an alternative Black Panther, and just seeing the world of Iron Man and the world of Black Panther sort of collide together in this way. It was a ton of fun, and really, like, this is all Killmonger's episode. I think that Killmonger already, Michael B. Jordan solidified Killmonger as one of the most interesting, most tragic, most powerful villains that Marvel has had thus far in their 23 movie run. But I think this was great because we got to really spend more time with him and really see how devious he can be, which I thought was really, really interesting. I mean, if anything, in my opinion, this episode really kind of made Killmonger even a bigger threat, even a bigger, more powerful villain than he was before. Mainly because in this one, he kind of wins. Like, he succeeds. So I thought it was great. I have a lot to say, but we'll get into the details on it. But I really had a blast.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Killmonger character here has been really fleshed out in this episode, which makes you almost kind of miss the fact that they took him out in one movie when he could have been a villain that kind of existed and stayed around movie to movie because of the threat. This was the most fleshed out we've seen Killmonger in any way, shape, or form. So I agree with you 100%, Michael. What did you think, Shannon, about this episode overall, and Michael's thoughts on Killmonger as well?
I mean, Killmonger was one of the many highlights of Black Panther. I mean, Michael B. Jordan's performance in that film was great.
Yeah.
And watching the different side of his approach to his sort of black ops approach to achieve his personal objective was really neat, because for the most part, in the film, it was a little more run and gun. Whereas this, it was a lot of hobnobbing. It was a lot of him using this charm that he has to kind of rub elbows with the people that can make those decisions. I think we're all presuming that Michael B. Jordan is probably done in the movies outside of a multiverse time travel thing, maybe. It was really great to see him back in this. And I gotta say, even watching the trailers, when we saw that shot of him throwing that Stark Industries missile away from Tony, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, maybe he's a good guy in this one. Maybe he's a good guy. I like him so much. I want to see him be a good guy. I don't want him to be the bad guy. Because again, he's just such a charming, dynamic character. But everything, like watching how seamless they move from within the worlds of the movies into this, watching them go from Iron Man 2, Avengers 2 into Black Panther. I mean, it just works so seamlessly that they're really doing the What If brand justice about how this literally could have been another version of the world.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, Michael, you're a showrunner. Shannon, you write for an animated series. Now you understand, like, flowing in these scenes, there's an editing process here that you have to get this as right as they got it in this episode. And I think they did. It probably took a tremendous amount of effort to figure out where to cut, where to move into, how to seamlessly have, in essence, segues into these movies and make the story work overall for the powerful ending that it had on two fronts. Yeah, Mike?
I think it takes a tremendous amount of effort, but I think what I see in this, and what I think is equally as important, is it takes a tremendous amount of passion. Yeah. And I think what is very clear in this show is that everybody working on this show is as much of a Marvel fan as we are. Yeah. Like, the level of detail to, let's set this in this scene. Let's do this exact shot from this movie. Right. Let's make sure that this dialogue matches, but then here's where we deviate. And I think particularly in the episodes where they really are kind of going into each of the movies. I mean, Shannon brings it up every week, and I was thinking about it this week, but like, even from the score, taking, whether it be the Guardians theme, when Yondu and T'Challa are fighting the Collector, or here when Killmonger shows up and his the Ludwig Göransson theme, his theme from the Black Panther movie shows up. It's like those little hints of, this is the music from the movie, this is the exact set from this part. Like the thrill that we get going, oh shit, this is the tanker from Age of Ultron 2. Like, this is where Ulysses Claw is. The fact that they went and like painstakingly recreated it in animation, that passion is, I think, what is making What If really, really come alive as a show.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, absolutely agree with you 100%. All right, we're going to get into it. This is your final spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the episode, go watch it. Pause this, go watch it, come back, and then hit play again and pick up right where you left off. This one's written by Matthew Chauncey. It is directed again by Brian Andrews. Killmonger rescues Tony Stark when his Humvee is attacked in Afghanistan and manipulates his influence for his designs of conquering Wakanda. That is the basic log line of this episode. Let's get into it. We start in the Kunar province in Afghanistan with the scene from Iron Man where Stark is attacked and taken hostage. It's a great animated interpretation of it, but this time, just when the rocket arrives to maybe knock Tony Stark out and get him taken hostage by the 10 rings, Killmonger arrives instead, throws that missile, as Shannon referenced, into the sky, and it blows up. He saves Stark, and he goes off with him after he tells him about the 10 rings that were coming after him. The Watcher shows us Tony's path in our MCU, which will differ from the path this Tony Stark is going to take, and he ends it by saying, though a man was saved, a hero was lost, and a villain was given a new chance. Now, when I heard that, I was in Shannon's camp, a villain given a new chance. I'm like, oh, this means he's going to be a good guy, right? No, a new chance to be even more villainous, which is now, in retrospect, when I look at that line. Tony's in a press conference here, answering questions, dropping quippy one-liners as he does. And Tony takes the lesson from his attack not to stop making weapons, but to instead make bigger weapons, more powerful weapons to protect the young men who are out there fighting these battles. Then announces Killmonger is his new chief of security, much to Happy Hogan and Pepper's dismay. The press keeps asking questions, including Christine Everhart, Leslie Bibb coming back to voice that again, who asks how Killmonger could have been there when his unit was 400 clicks away. Killmonger reveals, after Obadiah Stane tries to stop him from answering a question, Killmonger reveals that he discovered plans for the attack on Stark while he was deep undercover with the 10 rings. Obadiah tries to stop it again, and then that causes Killmonger to expose Obadiah Stane, and he has apparently got all kinds of evidence that he brings up on the screen. That little clicker of his, that little button of his is going to come in handy again later on in the episode. Says he's dropped it all on Google, which of course probably angers Christine Everhart, who wanted to break the scoop, and reveals that Obadiah Stane was behind all of it. Obadiah tries to escape, pushes a couple of security guards off of him, and then Happy Hogan comes in with a right cross and knocks him out. And Tony grabs Killmonger's hand, lifts it up, and says, hey, if anything else, he's great for television. Let's stop there. Michael, what an intro. What an intro. We get the Iron Man stuff. Then we get the twist that Killmonger comes in. Then we get Happy Hogan. Once again, the poor downtrodden Happy Hogan pushed to the side for Killmonger. And then we get the Obadiah reveal in the first couple of minutes of the show rather than near the end of Iron Man. So pretty incredible stuff here. What do you think about this beginning?
Thought it was great. I mean, like, look, I love when they do the shot for shot things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's actually important because I think that putting us so squarely into the familiar visually helps us feel even more disoriented when we go off kilter. So having it be like shot for shot, like that shot of the Humvee coming right at the screen, and then it's Tony in there, and it's the exact lines, it's the exact moment. Everything happens the way that we know it happens, so that when Killmonger comes in, we're like, oh, here we go. This is the moment. It's like we're the watcher watching it. This is super random, and I have no idea why it's different. But I was watching it, and then I was like reading some stuff on Twitter, and somebody else pointed this out. I didn't see it, but the one difference is Tony in this has a flip phone, and in the actual Iron Man movie, he's got like a more futuristic phone.
Yes,
and I'm not sure. I don't know if this was just an asset thing. They were like, we don't want to design his weird flip phone for this one moment. What do we have? Let's give him a flip. I don't know what the reason is. I don't think it's any kind of like deep cover Marvel reason. But I thought it was interesting because like when everything was so much the same, that was different. Right. It's a great, awesome moment. Killmonger is super badass. I really loved by him kind of outing Obadiah Stane that early, kind of to your point, it short circuits the back half of the Iron Man movie.
Yes.
Like, Tony doesn't need to do anything to fix his heart or to save himself because there's no shrapnel there.
Right.
And also, Obadiah Stane doesn't need to be outed as a villain anymore because Killmonger does it in the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it really turns into a situation where once we have this meeting, or once we have this press conference, the rest of Iron Man, the movie, becomes non-important, and we are now very securely in a very different reality, which I thought was really, really cool. I also thought it was important the way that the Watcher walked us through our Tony Stark.
Right.
And seeing those key moments, particularly his like, I am Iron Man with the Infinity Gauntlet, because you do really realize that this all happened because he had this change of heart because of what happened to him. And Killmonger robbing him of that, you really, I think showing us those visual moments, those touch points that we know so well, helps hit home like, oh, fuck, this is still that asshole.
Right.
This isn't the guy from the end of Iron Man who we like. This is the asshole guy. Mm-hmm. God, that's not great. And so it was just a really cool way to sort of set all of this stuff up. And I also love that, again, because this Tony Stark is a little bit more of an asshole, Happy and Pepper kind of get sidelined here. Yeah. You know, at this point, don't forget, like, we all think of Pepper as this sort of moral touchstone for Tony because she has been for so long, but at the beginning of Iron Man, she's still like his assistant. Like, she's not in the position to really be like, Tony, you got to get your shit together. So there's nobody here at this point who can really tell Tony what to do except for Eric Killmonger, which is kind of horrifying. Yeah,
those excellent points, Mike, because he hasn't suffered through what he suffered through, which made him more vulnerable, which made him listen to Pepper, made him listen to Happy, made him appreciate life a little bit more. You know, sit down and having that hamburger. We don't have that moment anymore. This is a guy who is even more gung-ho to create the weapons and protect, once again, kind of visions of the creation of Ultron, this desire to protect, to go farther. What did you think about this opening, Shannon? What kind of struck you and stood out for you and kind of affected you from this opening?
So there was a moment, and this did not pan out, but the moment that Killmonger throws that missile so easily, part of me is just like, oh, is Killmonger a super soldier? That's immediately where my head went. Just how he so easily tossed it. That did not pan out. But the moment that Killmonger theme kicks in, like the theme work in the MCU is kind of hit and miss. You've got some really recognizable ones with Avengers, with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then some of them just kind of fall to the wayside. Right. The Killmonger theme, as well as most of the Black Panther score, the Wakanda theme, those are just, again, audio touchstones. Like, you hear it right away, you know who's showing up. For Harry Whittington from the British Post, that sure sounded like John Oliver to me. I know it wasn't, but the moment that he raises his hand and starts asking a question, I was just like, I would love it if John Oliver were this big MCU fan and they got him to do like a one-line role. To Tony not changing, this is not only did he not experience the hopelessness of that cave, this is a guy who didn't experience the sacrifice of Jensen.
Yeah, right.
Good the point. Guy who sacrificed his life so Tony could get out. And so, like, he did see those soldiers die, but it was really, I think, the sacrifice of this guy who he is the reason that Tony got out. That's one of the big reasons that Tony did have that change of heart. When they announce Eric Killmonger as the new chief, like head of security, that is a job that Happy was going to get I think he did get it in Iron Man 3. Yeah. So it was very fun. Again, Jon Favreau in animated form is just funny. Like he doesn't even have to say a thing, and you just start laughing. But yes, solid opening with this. And I was so curious where we were going to go from there.
Yeah, give a shout out to Mick Wingert, who is the voice of Tony Stark in this, Beth Hoyt, who is the voice of Pepper Potts, and Cliff Vandenheuvel, who is the voice of Obadiah Stane. Great job, especially Beth Hoyt as Pepper Potts. Yeah. I thought she nailed Paltrow's timbre and resonance and pacing that she does as Pepper Potts really well.
I think they do. It's a funny thing. They have cast the people who are not the actual people really, really, really well. Like they clearly come there. I still have a little twinge of like, it's a hard thing for my ear because when you have so many of the actual people there, true. When you hear like Nick Wingert or Beth Hoyt, you said, is that her name?
Yes. Pepper Potts,
when you hear them do it, you're like, this is really good. It's not quite there. And it's like when you're standing next to the person who you're like, and it's not to take anything away from them. I think they're just killing it. They're doing an amazing job. But it's definitely something I'm like, oh man, I wish that was Robert Downey Jr. But it's okay.
just to hear Jeff Bridges do Obadiah Stane again, I think would have been awesome. But yeah, I hear you.
Scraps.
hey, don't answer the question. Don't answer the question. All right, let's move on here. Tony and Killmonger are at an after party, which feels very reminiscent to Iron Man 3 when he offers Killmonger Obadiah Stane's job after Obadiah Stane has been arrested, obviously, under Pepper's protests, quiet protests, but protests nonetheless. As Michael points out, this is not the Pepper we know later, who was quite open about her issues with Tony. This is still the Pepper who's kind of figuring out where she can kind of push him in certain directions. Pepper goes to another room, and who's there but Colonel Rhodes? I half expected, I really did, to hear Terrence Howard. I was like, this, in my mind, I'm like, come on. But of course it's not. It is Don Cheadle doing the voice of Rhodes there. He offers her intel on Killmonger. We essentially get his dossier: Annapolis, MIT, member of SEALs, performing assassinations around the world. Pepper is suspicious, and she thinks Killmonger wants something. And Rhodes says, why? And she goes, well, it's been my experience that hardly anyone works with Tony who doesn't want something. Stark is then, we cut to Stark showing Killmonger his lab with all his weapons. They talk about weapons. They talk about fathers. And Killmonger just kind of like all sheepishly offers up that he had an idea for a weaponized mechanical suit. Remember, this guy went to MIT, so he would have an idea idea for a weaponized mechanical suit and says he couldn't crack it. Stark offers to help. Jarvis brings up this project. It's called Project Liberator. They have a funny back and forth about the anime look of this suit and make a Gundam reference, which I thought was brilliant. Stark asks for supplies from Jarvis, and we get a montage of them working together to build the suit. I half wanted an 80s theme song here to play, but I dug the music. I like the music here. And this felt like an Iron Man 2 scene almost, when what's his face was with the bird was building
Justin Hammer and Whiplash.
Yeah, Whiplash.
Ivan Vanko.
Ivan Vanko, who is quietly Lady Outlaw, one of Lady Outlaw's favorite characters in the MCU. I can't explain it, but like when he's building the suit, so there's reminiscent stuff of Iron Man 2 here. They say he hit some kind of roadblock. They need a new power source. Stark comically offers up miniaturizing an arc reactor, which is very funny. And then Killmonger suggests vibranium and offers up his ring as a source. Tony wants to talk to Ulysses Claw, we find out here, which Pepper does not like. Killmonger agrees and says they need some political cover, so they bring in Rhodes as cover, of course. All right, Shannon, what do you think about all this? The furthering of this relationship, Pepper getting suspicious about this, Rhodes being a part of this as well, and then building this mechanized suit. What did you think about all this?
Yeah, I thought one of the really interesting things throughout this episode, and I think this is the first moment where it occurred to me, is what was Killmonger's original plan? Right. Because I don't think he could have foreseen that he was going to end the day as Stark's COO. I mean,
yeah, probably not.
It seemed like that was genuine. That was genuine surprise. Like, I don't know, Mr. Stark, I'm more of a soldier. But he sees this opportunity, and we see that military training, that adapt and overcome. Yeah, he was given a gift, and he's like, all right, let's take this and roll with it. I thought it was really funny when Tony said, we'll be like Butch and Sundance, but to be clear, I'm Sundance, who was played by Robert Redford, who played Alexander Pierce in Captain America 2.
Great point.
And yeah, I thought it was really interesting that Rhodes was the only character from the Iron Man universe that seemed to have gotten a little sidelined in this. Like there just wasn't any time for he and Tony to have that moment. Because I also think he would have been slightly suspicious, mainly when it comes to the fact that Killmonger's unit was so far away, and he chose not to. He chose not to report to his superiors that, hey, something's going down right now. Oh, and something else I forgot to talk about when we found out that Killmonger was, this is going back, but when Killmonger was kind of undercover with the 10 rings, that is a connection to Shang-Chi. And that's something like when they're looking at their release dates, I was like, I wonder if that was deliberate at all, because it is still, we're only like 3 weeks out from its release date. Watching that drone immediately, the head, to me, that really looked like the same head of the Hammer drone.
Right.
Yeah. And the moment that he takes out that repulsor blaster and he aims it at Tony for a second, and was it Dummy? The one mechanical arm who grabs it and takes it away, that apparently he has better instincts, or they have better instincts than Tony Stark in this situation.
Yeah, as soon as he turned and punted him, I was like, no, he's a villain. What did you think about all of this sequence? What stood out for you, Mike?
I love that they were. I think that bar actually is literally a bar from Iron Man 1. I think they actually are in that exact bar.
Okay.
And they sort of recreated it. You can go back and look at it. What I really like, I disagree a little bit with Shannon, because I think that more or less he maybe didn't think he was going to get there this fast or in this way, but I think this was exactly Killmonger's plan. I think that he knew he wanted to get these things made. Like I think that he was like playing 3D chess and everyone else was playing checkers. And I think that one of the parts that really fun is like you do sort of forget that like they do say in Black Panther, like it's the same thing. Like he did graduate MIT, and like I think in Black Panther, kind of to Shannon's point, once he gets going, he's so much just like it's all about his power and his strength and him going up against T'Challa, but he's really, really, really smart. And this, you get to see just how smart. For example, like when they are talking early on, I think it's right at the bar right after, he's casually talking, and he's like, oh, what is it your dad used to say? Peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy. Right. Which is exactly what Tony, like that's an exact quote from Iron Man. He's like, oh yeah, my dad used to say this thing. And so you're like, oh, this dude did his homework.
Oh yeah.
Like this guy came to play. Like he has been tracking Tony. He's been researching Tony. He knows everything that's going down. Even with the whole thing with the designs, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I had this design." Like, we know from the MCU that Tony's giant weakness is that he can't help but tinker. Like, give him an idea, even a bad idea, like a giant force field around the world, and he's going to go try and tackle it. Like, he'll build an Ultron. He'll build this. So you're like, oh, yeah, I had this big machine. I could never figure out how to do it. Like, he's done psychological profiles on this guy. He knows that this is how it's going to go. Yeah. And I thought the montage was really fun. It reminded me sort of like it was sort of like the montage in Iron Man where he was trying to put together the suit because you saw stuff working but you saw stuff not working. So like you kind of had some fun comedic beats. And then I liked the mention of the arc reactor because it was like a comedic throwaway line. Yeah, but also I liked it because the arc reactor getting a little too much symbolism probably for what they were intending, but the arc reactor is close to Tony's heart. He keeps it close to his heart. And also it's a miniaturized version of the arc reactor that his dad built. Right. So the arc reactor is close to his heart and tied to his dad. And then Killmonger pulls out the ring that his father gave him, which is close to his heart, and gives him that for the vibranium. So there really is this moment where you're kind of like, these are two dudes who are so driven by their dads, but went down very different roads. And kind of to what you were saying the other day, John, on the main show when we were talking about the Hawkeye trailer and Kate Bishop and Eleanor Bishop, and how like it might be fun to see a girl and her mom because the Marvel is so built around these characters and their dads. But I thought that was like a really, really kind of nice kind of reference to both of them. And then with the Ulysses Claw thing, it's interesting. In Age of Ultron, like Tony does mention that he knows Ulysses Claw. Like there's that funny interchange where he's like, "Oh, Ulysses Claw, he does an arms deal," and Steve gives him a look and he's like, "What? We didn't have like an arms dealer convention, but people." So yeah, just given this Tony and that he is still very much closer to the Tony Stark who he was, this whole let's reach out to Ulysses Claw is not too far out of the realm for him. Yeah,
I'll go even further with your power source. If they're talking about their dads essentially are half of the power source that created both of those guys. So if you want to go even deeper, we can go even that place. So anyway, let's move on. We head to a salvage yard on the African coast. I'm getting Age of Ultron vibes, of course. It's very much a reference to that moment where he's talking with Ultron there about all the vibranium. Anyway, Rhodes and Ulysses Claw are working through a deal here. Oh my God, Andy Serkis. As much as I enjoy seeing Killmonger again, it is a joy to hear Andy Serkis again as Ulysses Claw. He offers a Dora Milaje spear, which Rhodes refuses, which signals to Claw that this man means business. And then he shows Rhodes the vibranium, and it is almost exactly the vibranium that you saw in Ultron. Suddenly, Claw senses they've been breached. Rhodes is calling for Killmonger, and Claw has all his men turn around when suddenly the Black Panther shows up. People thought we were only going to hear Chadwick Boseman in that one episode, and they felt all sentimental about it. We've been hearing Chadwick all through What If, for God's sakes. But anyway, Black Panther shows up, and we hear that drum music, which is so awesome. It's T'Challa, and just then Killmonger comes out from the darkness after Black Panther is pretty much taking care of everybody and taking the gun off of Rhodes. Killmonger comes out of the darkness with the sonic taser machine and essentially incapacitates both Rhodes and T'Challa. T'Challa tries to go for him one more time, and Killmonger kills him. And then he uses Black Panther's glove and claw to kill Rhodes after he chastises him for wearing the uniform of their oppressors. Claw comes out. You see they've been in cahoots the whole time. And then we cut to a fantastic sequence showing the coffins landing in both Wakanda and the United States with the bodies of Rhodes and T'Challa. We cut to a news report implicating Stark Industries with the murder of T'Challa by Rhodes. T'Challa walks in on Stark thinking he has the upper hand with that Dora Milaje spear. Stark reveals that Jarvis saw what Killmonger did. Tony brings down the iron doors on the windows, and it looks like it's on. Killmonger makes a joke about Pepper coming to save Stark. Stark reveals that he melted down to Killmonger's ring, and Killmonger comes toe-to-toe with the mechanized suit because he used that to power the suits, and it's Killmonger versus the suit, and then Stark, like a fucking idiot, gives away the plot by revealing that the machine's moves are Killmonger's moves. Never give the enemy the strategy that the other thing is using. Anyway, Killmonger incapacitates and essentially kills the suit, and then throws the spear at Tony, pinning him to the wall. They have an exchange about the situation, about the differences between their paths, and how Tony thinks they're similar. And the reason Killmonger thinks they're different is the reason he's killing Tony, and he does kill Tony. So let's stop there. Mike, a lot to dissect in here. Certainly the claw stuff, the vibranium stuff, Black Panther showing up again, the terrible experience we have to go through, seeing essentially Chadwick Boseman, dying again in the form of Black Panther here. Really tough to see. But then the death of Tony Stark and all of this as well. What did you think as we got deeper into Killmonger's evil here being fully unveiled in this sequence?
Well, like you said, as soon as you saw the salvage yard, I just love that we jumped from Iron Man to Age of Ultron, and Ulysses Claw showing up. Like, that dude, Andy Serkis, just clearly loves this role. For as little as Ulysses Claw got to play around in the MCU, boy did he make it memorable, because he chews animated or live action. He is going to chew up every bit of scenery, and it is really something to see. I mean, it is like, boy, it is powerful. The great part about What If is all bets are off. You have no idea what's going to happen. So Killmonger coming out, killing Rhodey, and then killing T'Challa. Like, T'Challa shows up, and I was like, oh, yeah, now he's here. These two are going to come face to face. Now the story's going to get real interesting. No, Killmonger is just fucking taking down everybody. I loved the funeral sequence. I thought it was really beautiful. I thought going from Rhodey's coffin to his coffin. Thought it was a cool detail that the Dora Milaje are actually not carrying his coffin. They're just standing next to it because it's floating, because Wakandan coffins are way cooler than regular coffins. I didn't check this because I don't speak or write Wakandan, but somebody on Twitter was saying that the Wakandan letters actually spelled out Wakanda forever. I assume that's probably true. That seems like that's something that it would say. Sure. I thought that was really, really interesting. And then you start to really see what's going on here. I mean, you start to really see what Killmonger's plan is. Like, well, now you got, like, the Americans are ready to go to town, like everything. Like, you can start to see that this was just what the plan was. And then the battle with Tony was just awesome. Again, I was like, well, they just killed Rhodey and they just killed T'Challa. Like, they're not good. No, okay, no, they are. No, he's going to. Like, it was like, oh, okay, we're really this is really Killmonger's episode. Yeah. And I don't remember the exact words. I didn't write it down, but I really did love that moment. As we said, like, Ryan Coogler's Black Panther movie is so much about the Black experience, and and Killmonger as a character, his motivation is so much about freeing the oppressed peoples everywhere. Yeah. I do think it's interesting that this version of Killmonger is so intent on freeing all of the oppressed Black people around the world that he goes and kills 2 Black people. So I think that there's definitely something interesting that you can delve in there. But I really did love that line he said to Tony, where it was like, Tony's like, I thought we were fighting the same battle, and he's like, the fact you think you and me are fighting the same battle shows that we are not. Like this idea that, like, you are a rich, entitled white dude. Our experiences are nowhere near the same, and what we want is nowhere near the same. So I thought that line was kind of the closest we got into the episode to really just, like, hitting right on the head some of those best Killmonger moments from Black Panther. And so I thought it was really great. But Tony went down, and I'm like, fuck, what's going to happen next? Which we will talk about in a minute, but not until Shannon weighs in first.
Yeah, it's a good point, though, you bring up, for sure. I mean, the idea that, you're a rich white guy, quippy, one-lining white guy where everybody gives you everything and you can buy whatever you want. I've had to fight, scratch, and claw to get to this moment, to be able to do the things that I'm doing to exact revenge. And the fact that you can't see the difference is the reason why I have to kill you. That's a great point you bring up, Mike. Certainly a very powerful moment that kind of echoes what Ryan Coogler was trying to get people to see in Black Panther. What did you think, Shannon? What stood out for you here? So much occurring in this sequence, seeing fully that this is a villain, and seeing the experience, or watching him essentially kill 2 of our favorite characters in Rhodes and Black Panther, and eventually Tony as well.
I mean, Andy Serkis is great in any medium. And as much as I loved Black Panther, I think killing him off was one of the few mistakes that they make. So, like, why would you take this guy off the board? You can have him pop up in anything forever. But I was happy to see him come back for this. Yes, great scene. As soon as T'Challa showed up, I had the same feeling as Vogel. Like, oh boy, here we go. Story's about to kick into high gear, and bang, he's dead. Like, and he's using sort of a mechanized version of the device that Obadiah Stane used on Tony in Iron Man 1. Made it more of a cannon versus less of a covert ops device. Right. Like, I definitely agree with you guys about Killmonger's point of view when it comes to Tony, but when his shirt gets ripped off, and even animated, Michael B. Jordan is shredded, and he points out the marks where he's like, each one is for a kill. Honestly, Tony, I was hoping you weren't going to be one. I believe him when he says that, because there's no reason for him to lie at that point. Right. But I understand but I understand the point when Tony says, I thought we were fighting the same battle. I thought we were alike. And his line, which was a great line, the difference between you and me is that you can't see the difference between you and me.
That's it. Yeah, thank you.
Just a fantastic written line of dialogue. And then we haven't met the king and queen yet. All right.
No.
Gotcha.
I think, but to your point about a shirtless Michael B. Jordan who is ripped and sexy as hell, animated or not. But a really fun detail was he has less marks on his body in What If than he does when we see him in Black Panther, because there's several years in between, and he kills lots more people.
He does, that's for sure. I like Michael B. Jordan's confidence when he plays this character, whether on camera or behind the mic. There's just such a confidence. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what makes him really charming. Nothing unsettles him. Even, Tony figuring things out, to Jarvis stuff. He's like, all right, cool. What's Pepper going to come save you? Like, it's just great how confident he is in whatever situation he walks into supremely. Even when the doors are coming down, he's not like unsettled. When the robot comes out, or the mechanized suit, he's not unsettled. It's a little bit daunting that it knows its moves, but then Tony gives it away, and he's able to handle his business in freestyle, as he says it, and takes that thing out. Let me ask you something. Does Panther say cousin to him, or does he only say it at the end on the spiritual? I thought he said it here, or Killmonger says cousin. So is that
Killmonger says it?
Does it? Oh, so because he knows the situation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to clarify that in my head. I was a little confused on it. All right.
He says cousin, or he says cuz?
He probably says cuz. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, auntie. Yeah, cuz. It makes sense.
Hey, auntie.
All right, we cut to Thunderbolt Ross, who is voiced in this one by Mike McGill. We cut to him talking to Killmonger and revealing that this might be the Wakandans who did this. When Happy asks why Jarvis didn't catch it, Pepper reveals that Jarvis was wiped clean, ... conveniently, which arouses Killmonger's suspicion. He says, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Ross kind of stops it in his track, and then Killmonger wants to stop it. It wants to go after Pepper. Killmonger stops him in his tracks and says, no, let it be. Her and Tony had a thing, whatever. Then Ross says he wants to weaponize these suits with Killmonger. Pepper protests. Ross says he's taking Stark Industries because of the Patriot Act. He's taking Stark Industries over, and they are putting the robots in production. We see them being built, coming off the line. Honestly, it's really unsettling. And then the shot of Killmonger leading them out that's a badass animated shot, let me just say. Then Killmonger flies with the suits to Ulysses Claw and shows him what they've built with that vibranium. They drive out to a road in the jungle later that night outside Wakanda. Then we see the shields being revealed, and Claw calls him boy, which you really don't do. Although Killmonger was going to do this already, it kind of gave him even more impetus to do so when he called him boy. Killmonger walks over and says, hey, just like you said, the Wakandans are full of surprises, and he shoots Claw in the head. So even in this universe, he shoots him pretty early in the movie. All right, then we get a scene from Black Panther where he is echoing Black Panther, where he is bringing Claw to Wakanda, but this is to the Dora Milaje instead. T'Chaka is there, and after he's heard that Killmonger is here and what Killmonger is claiming, T'Chaka reveals to Ramunda that he hid the heritage of Killmonger from his wife. Killmonger and the king have an exchange, and T'Chaka have an exchange about his dad after Killmonger comes into the room, and his brother, T'Chaka's brother. Killmonger, Shuri, and Okoye have a discussion about how to destroy the drones after Killmonger reveals the drones are coming, that it's an attack from America on Wakanda. Killmonger says to let the drones come in, and then we'll let the shields come up, let the drones come in, we'll put the shields down. That'll cut off the connection of the drones to the Jarvis AI there, and then we see the Queen as the general prepared to fight the drones. That was a fucking awesome twist. Ramonda coming out there, Angela Bassett getting to do a badass warrior. That was cool as shit. So, Shannon, what did you think about this whole sequence here? Getting a little more about the Killmonger stuff. We're seeing now him manipulating the pieces on the board. Ross, dumb as ever, being used in these situations here, and then seeing him ingratiate himself with the Wakandans and also killing Claw. Claw.
Killmonger's unflappableness, which you had touched on right before, that moment that Pepper does throw a little bit of shade at him, throwing out the possibility that he may have had something to do with this. And as Ross comes in ready to fight, he's like, hey, it's okay. You know, she's you know, they were tight. That I also made the note about that shot because it reminded me of kind of one of those Age of Ultron shots where it's Ultron with all the bots behind him. And it's like, boy, Tony can't help but build things that he wants to do good with, and they end up becoming just, you know, a stain on his legacy. I also thought it was a fun detail because, you know, we don't know how long. It's probably 7-8 years. I mean, that would have been the difference between Iron Man 1 and Civil War, and probably Black Panther by association. I did like how much younger Shuri was. Like, Shuri is a child here. I mean, she's a little girl, but you can still see the brain power and the fact that even as however old she's supposed to be, 10 or 12, even there, she still does not trust this guy who is her cousin.
Right. What do you think about all this, Mike, and about him and you know, him coming face to face now with the Wakandan royalty, with, as Shannon pointed out, Shuri, and then also kind of batting back a little bit of the Pepper suspicion, which of course is going to play itself out in the next section here as a possible adversary to Killmonger. What do you think of all this?
Yeah, well, just echoing what you two said. You know, we talk about this, like Shannon and I were in a writing meeting earlier where we were talking about this, like when you're like sort of building the character of your villain. Like, you can have villains who are super explosive, like Hades and Hercules, or you can have like the cool as the cucumber villains, and you can have anything in between. But like, that is like how they respond to obstacles, how they respond to being pressed about things. And yeah, part of the defining traits of Killmonger is that he's cool. He's ready. You can throw anything and he's gonna act like it was completely expected and fine. He's always got that comeback ready. He's always kind of just one step ahead. And so I think that scene is really great. And then I do love how, you know, as I was like, with Iron Man, we sort of got up to a certain point, but then Killmonger's interference said, well, the rest of Iron Man doesn't matter now. We saw the part that mattered, and now we're in a different territory. And then we get to this point, we're like, well, and now we're picking up with kind of the back half of Black Panther. Like, we know that Killmonger and Claw did their thing together, worked together, and then they were going to go to Wakanda. And then, what is it he says in the movie? Like, you can't trust those Wakandans, they're all savages. And he shoots him, and here he calls him boy, and he gets shot again, and his body is used as sort of the currency to get him into Wakanda. Except that now, the buy-in, and then he gets to see the whole family. And you know, like T'Chaka, maybe not the smartest king in this situation, but he did just lose his son. Like, T'Challa just died, and now his nephew shows up, seemingly with good intentions. So you can kind of forgive him for maybe being a bit sentimental about all this. Probably still feeling bad about what went down with his brother as well. So, you know, you can sort of see where that would work. But yeah, just he so easily gets in there. And yeah, Shuri, just like Pepper. You know, shout out to the women of this universe, the Marvel universe, because they seem to be the only ones that are paying attention. And the only other thing about Thunderbolt Ross, I do love that Thunderbolt Ross is just the most hawkish, political, like you can just say to him, be like, hey, I have this shady evidence from a guy I don't trust, but if you take it, you can go to war. And he's like, I'm in. Like, it doesn't matter what. Like, Thunderbolt Ross wants a fight, and he will, like, whatever you need, he's ready to fight. Like, I just think he is the MCU's commentary on the military machine. It's all, Thunderbolt Ross is what it's all about. But yeah, and then, yeah, to your point, like, then with everything sort of gearing up, this whole big battle coming, all orchestrated by Killmonger. And yeah, Ramonda being the general was maybe like I think I just under my breath was like, she should have been Storm. Should have been
a million percent.
Storm.
A million percent.
I am sure that whenever Storm comes into the MCU, whatever actress they cast will probably be great, and we'll be like, yep, we got a great Storm. But I will go to my deathbed being like, should have been Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
And when she's standing there with her spear, and I'm like, yep, there she is.
That's badass.
That's my woman right there.
Who can top Okoye? Ramonda as a damn general herself, man. Oh my God, it was badass. All right. Anyway, let's say we cut to Ross in this command center. He thinks he's got it all figured out. He's got these mechanized suits marching towards the capital city of Wakanda. But on the screen, it looks like nothing. And he's like, well, are we sure that this is where we're supposed to be? Are we sure? And then suddenly Wakanda opens the shields, and that's because Killmonger has told T'Chaka to do so. They open the shields, and we see the Wakanda, the capital city of Wakanda there. And Ross is like, oh, there it is. Oh, my God. Wow. They start marching in, and then Killmonger accused T'Chaka to close the shields. They close the shields there. It affects Ross's connection to the drones, just as Killmonger predicted. So we're like, oh, what is this? This seems to be working. Even Shuri says, your plan is working. And then T'Chaka and Killmonger are talking about, or at least T'Chaka is talking about celebrating this with Killmonger, and says, you will be, you will always have a home in Wakanda. And Killmonger says, nah, dog, I need a little more than that, and activates the drones, which leads to an awesome battle between the drones and the Milage, the Dora Milaje. And then when things are starting to get a little shaky, Killmonger jumps on a rhino, those big old rhinos from Daniel Kaluuya. I forget that character's name.
Wakabi.
From Wakabi's
Wakabi
tribe. They jump on there, and he jumps on the rhino, and he attacks the drones himself, trying to trick the other people in Wakanda, the royal family, into seeing him as a Wakandan hero. He even saves Okoye to put a cherry on top of that bullshit cake. Then the Black Panther score, the Black Panther score is killing it here. It's fantastic here. Killmonger yells, Wakanda forever, and the queen, not to be outdone, kills 2 more drones and says, for T'Challa, which is an incredible moment. And then Ross knows he's been had. Killmonger is on the mountain that was mentioned earlier in the back and forth between T'Challa. And I think it's the same mountain that T'Challa brings him to in Black Panther there. T'Chaka comes upon him, and they have an exchange about Killmonger wanting to serve Wakanda. And then we find out that T'Chaka has made Killmonger the new Black Panther. He goes to the spirit realm, and who shows up? T'Challa, and Chadwick Boseman's voice. God damn it, this is great. Shows up and asks him, echoes of Infinity War, saying, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And the same argument from the Black Panther movie comes up again about their competing ideologies about what to do with the power that Wakanda wields. T'Challa tells him as a final kind of warning that power stolen can be quite unstable. We cut to Pepper and Ross talking about finding Wakanda. Shuri is in Pepper's office and shows her evidence of what happened and what Killmonger did and who he killed. And they come together to plan to expose Killmonger. And the Watcher ends with a fantastic line that I don't know if they wrote before Chadwick Boseman died or after Chadwick Boseman died, but this is a fantastic line. Heroes are never really gone. They live forever, as do the ones they inspire to carry on the fight. And that line can be used in so many places. What a beautiful way to end this episode. Michael, what did you think about this whole ending sequence here with Killmonger and the war and the battle and ingratiating himself, becoming Black Panther, the warning from T'Challa, and then seeing both Pepper Potts and Shuri kind of coming together to try to stop Killmonger down the road?
I love that Ryan Coogler did such a good job with Black Panther that we all just take it as complete fact that Wakanda is the most technologically advanced place in the entire world, and the Dora Milaje are the absolute most badass fighters in the world, and then we get to watch it in action. Like watching them battle those robots was just pure animation, eye candy, awesome. And it just I just sat there kind of loving that we live in a world where, like we talk about this all the time, there is a ton of shit when so-and-so gets cast as this, or they change the race of this, or this female role is this, and half of Twitter goes crazy and says, this is woke bullshit, and the other half of Twitter is like, why do you gotta get mad at woke bullshit? Why don't you just accept the world's changing? And we all spend a lot of energy yelling at each other, and it gets super exhausting, and all I want to do is enjoy my fucking movie. And I love that the Dora Milaje don't really get attacked so much. You're like a bunch of badass black women, and you're like, don't fuck with them.
Yeah.
You can keep your woke bullshit. Keep it. Shut it up. We all agree about them, and they are just that badass and awesome. It was awesome when Ramona, the way that she threw the spear through two Liberators, leapt on top of them, ripped the spear out, and I was like, well, this is just the greatest thing I've ever seen. And just like Killmonger's plan. I mean, he could have just let the Liberators come in and just defeated General Ross, but just doing it all the way he did it, keeping in control of the situation, and then riding that rhino in and being the hero. Like, he just rode his way right from rescuing Tony Stark to being the new Black Panther, and just like boom, 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 and just did it so easily.
Yeah.
Him standing up on that mountain was great. Him going to the spirit realm, like, I was kind of like, all right, so I see where this is ending. This is great. He's the Black Panther. I get it. That's sort of the big cliffhanger ending of this episode. Right. Then he went to the spirit realm, and just look, I said it last week when T'Challa had his line to Peter about death and how Wakandans view death. It's just like, anything Chadwick Boseman related just has an extra weight to it. And particularly seeing T'Challa show up in the spirit realm, like, has some extra weight to it. And it was a beautiful scene. It was so cool. And just like, there was that sense of foreboding. It's like, it looks like Killmonger has won, but T'Challa's like, look, whether it's in this world or the next world, like, you're going to have to pay for this. Like, this is not going to go down easy. And then great, just final surprise. Like, you see Pepper, you see Ross, you see everything happening. Going into that office and having Shuri sitting there, I was like, all right, fuck yeah, this is great. And the thing about these What If episodes, I am sure they're all connecting. Like, I am sure we're in for some kind of big connection. But like, beyond whatever big connection is happening, I could watch a 6-episode miniseries on any one of these episodes. I am super into every one of these, and just the idea of Pepper and Shuri working together to figure out what to do to like take down Killmonger as the Black Panther. I'm like, well, that's a great move. Like, it's just each one of these, I'm just always so impressed with not only where they start, but where they end, and how each one leaves me wanting more in such a major way.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, Shannon, right? I mean, we're having, in essence, the rumors were that Shuri is going to essentially replace the Tony Stark in a way by being the person who creates all the technology, who's smarter about all the technology. We saw shades of that in Infinity War when she's like criticizing how Banner and Stark did what they did with Vision and what they were doing. So you could have just done this, and it's like, oh, we didn't think about that. So in essence, here we go again. Stark is dead in this universe as well. Here's Shuri kind of sitting in the chair of Pep behind the desk, kind of being a person who's going in Tony's desk. So in essence, even more like on the nose that she is replacing Tony Stark in this universe. What'd you think about all of this way to end this episode? Do you think this is leading up? Like, are we going to touch base on this? Or is this one of those like kind of episodes that we'll touch base on in season 2, as opposed to being part of an overall thing that we're going to deal with at the end of the season?
I mean, the whole battle, as you guys already said, the whole battle was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it also proves that Thunderbolt Ross, in classic political military fashion, just keeps failing up. That he can have a bunch of losses and still end up the Secretary of Defense. I mean, the Dora Milaje were awesome. I love the Border Tribe, but they're fighting with force field blankets.
Right.
I mean, watching those dudes, stop all the Liberators, and then when it looks like the battle might be in question, how Killmonger hops on that armored rhino and that leads the charge to flank the Liberators, separating their forces. It was just awesome. And because W'Kabi wasn't in it, the moment that he saves Okoye, I'm like, oh, is this the start of a romance, a tactical romance from Killmonger? Like, all right, I just saved one of their best warriors. Being involved with her can only help me. Right. Watching him become the Black Panther, and when he goes to the ancestral plane. So many great moments from Chadwick Boseman, and as you guys said, because of what happened, I mean, everything just carries extra weight. I loved his line when Killmonger basically said, "This is what I'm gonna do," and T'Challa's, "So your answer to suffering is more suffering."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Tony did at the beginning of this episode, because he didn't have to go through that loss. He's like, the answer to our guys getting killed is to give them bigger weapons.
Oh, that's a great point, Shen. Yeah.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's the connection because Killmonger responds the way Tony did, because Killmonger says more power. That's my, you think it's this. No, the answer is more power, which is what Tony said. So here, kind of turning back that moment when he stabs Tony and says, "Oh, the difference between you and me is you don't know the difference between you and me." I don't think Killmonger knows the difference now between them, because they essentially responded to both moments in the same way overall, just using different methods. Yeah,
and then seeing that recruiting poster, now that the U.S. is going to go to war with Wakanda, only you can avenge Tony Stark. Great wording. And then again, Pepper going into Tony's office, and this child turns around, and we find out that Shuri was right all along. She is the Agatha of this universe. I mean, and this definitely seems like a story. It sure feels like we're going to revisit it in some capacity. Whether we'll do it this season, whether it plays into the larger story that might be occurring, we'll see. Yeah,
because right now we have 3 T'Challas. We have Star-Lord. Well, I guess one died. I guess we have Star-Lord T'Challa. We have one-legged T'Challa, and then we have T'Challa, who passed away in this one. So it was in the spirit realm. So this is very interesting. How many Black Panthers or T'Challas are we going to have if there's as we've been speculating, a Guardians of the Multiverse? Which T'Challa is going to be part of the Guardians of the Multiverse? So
it's a lot of T'Challa.
It's a lot of T'Challa, but you can never have too much.
Well, not that much. One of them doesn't have a leg.
That's true. That's love, I guess. All right. Any final words? Any final thoughts on this episode, gentlemen? What do you come away with? I guess I would ask from this episode, feeling about where What If is going. I think we've got 3 episodes left.
It's less what I feel about this episode and more, we talked a lot about how tied this is going to be into the proper MCU and what we're going to see. And, and we've said this, there's lots of people that are like, I wish Killmonger wasn't dead, because it would be great if he was in Wakanda Forever. He was in this. Right. And I just keep thinking about how both DC and Marvel in the comic books, whenever they do these big multi-Crisis on Infinite Earths, Secret Wars, multi-universe things, they oftentimes use them as a way to reboot whatever they want to reboot. Like, so for example, Miles Morales was for many years in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, not the main Marvel Universe. Like in the main Marvel Universe, Peter Parker, Spider-Man grew up and he was an adult. And in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Peter Parker got killed by the Green Goblin and Miles Morales became the new Spider-Man. Right. And when they did one of their big epic arcs and rebooted the universe and slammed them all together, Miles Morales got to exist in the regular Marvel Universe now, and he's just canon and he just exists in our universe. And so watching Killmonger in this episode, I was like, man, he's great. Man, Michael B. Jordan's good. And I'm like, when we get done with this multiverse of madness, are we just shutting the multiverse down, or is this a moment where we're going to do a giant slam it all together, and all of a sudden Ulysses Claw, Killmonger, with anybody that we want to keep, we can have them come back to life? Yeah. I don't know that they're going to do that, but it definitely it's starting to make me think a lot about the potential of doing that in the way that they're laying everything out.
Good points. Shannon, any final thoughts?
I guess my thought is smaller. It's just a hope for this episode that hopefully Killmonger. This is a fool's wish that being in Wakanda, surrounded by his family, maybe they'll make his heart grow 3 sizes that day. I want Killmonger to be the heroic representative of this world, even though I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen.
Fair enough. I like
Oh,
that
Shannon.
I like that as the great poem Casey at the bat. I like that hope still springs eternal in your human breast. To use that line. All right, so let's get on out. My final thought is this: this season is kicking ass. Every episode, I'm not disappointed by at all. People may, you've got your ones you liked a little more than the other, but the baseline is they're all effing good, and I like that. That's made it very enjoyable to watch these things and dive into them and break them down and analyze them. So kudos to everybody involved in the production of these, both in front of the mic, but they're in the booth, directing the voiceover work, doing the animation, constructing these episodes. Everybody deserves a crap ton of credit for what they've created here. It's fantastic. So, and it makes me excited for a season 2. I don't even need you to wrap stuff up here. I'm okay waiting till season 2 to see the next episodes for these stories. So, all right, let's get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies and the spoiler review for episode 6 of What If. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media. On Twitter, it's @geek_buddies. On Instagram, @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, @Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Roca, it is @TheRocaSays.
Mikey?
If you are a realist like John and I, who like to look at the world the way it is, or if you're an optimist like Mr. McClung over here, who's going to constantly look for the best in everybody, even an assassin who killed 3 heroes in the Marvel Universe in about 20 minutes, you are welcome here at the Geek Buddies. We love what we're doing. We want to keep doing it. Here is how you can help us. Hit that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, leave us some comments. What did you think of this episode? Where do you think What If is going? Did they nail everything? Were you left wanting? Like, what do you think of everything that happened? If you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a second to leave us some stars, leave us some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings so more geeks can find us. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it to your socials, tell everybody to check out the Geek Buddies. We love doing it with you guys. We love that more people are coming to join in on the fun, and we look forward to sharing more of our crazy, nerdy thoughts with all of you.
There you go. All right. Well, for Shannon McClung, Michael Vogel, I am John Rogan. This is Geek Buddies. Thank you so much for watching this. Share this everywhere, and we'll talk to you next time for another spoiler review here from the
Geek Buddies.